Hello, and welcome to Mad Knitting. My name is Susan, and this is my YouTube channel that's all about my crafting life, the things I make, and whatever else I feel like talking about. So it's about like 95% knitting, occasionally some other crafts, thoughts I have on the world, and sometimes things that I'm reading. Today I have 3 finished objects to show you, a couple of works in progress. I want to chat a little bit about the Wisconsin Sheep and Wool Festival, and that's probably it. So let's dig in. It is Friday, September 20, so we are almost at the end of summer in the year 2024, and I'm coming to you from my home in Madison, Wisconsin, where it is unseasonably warm. It's going to get up to the mid-80s today, Fahrenheit. So still feels like summer. I guess it's still technically summer. I have a finished object that I'm wearing, and I probably won't be able to keep it on for very long because the aforementioned heat wave that we are still in. But I wanted to show you. This has been in progress for a little while, since, I don't know, middle of July maybe. So not that long, but feels like a while. I'm very happy with it. So the pattern is by Gudrun Johnston. This is called the Little Boosty Yoke, and it's obviously a color work yoke design. It's worked from the top down, and this is my second sweater by this designer with a color work yoke. My other one was the the Porty cardigan, which called for like the same yarn and the same gauge. So I was pretty confident that this would work out, and it did. I used Berroco Lanas Light, and I don't remember all the names of the colors, but there's this beautiful teal, a very dark teal, and then a bright red. I mean, this is like fire engine red, pretty much as red as you can get, and then white. And I have kind of unofficially decided this is my get out the vote sweater, because the colors, while not strictly the colors of the American flag, remind me a lot of the vote stickers that you see on social media. I think voting is very important, and I'm very troubled to see how voting rights and voting access are threatened all across the country in various ways. In Wisconsin, we have voter ID laws, and there's been various attempts to restrict access, which is very troubling. We do have early voting, though. You don't have to have a reason to vote absentee. You can just do it. So that is one good thing. Back to my sweater. These colors are all about get out the vote, and I am very pleased with it. I don't think I did any major modifications. I kind of quit paying attention to the instructions once I got to the sleeves, so I don't really remember what she has you do. I did a 2x2 garter rib for the sleeves, which is a little loose but comfortable. I did a little bit of shaping along the body so that it wouldn't poof on me or hang like a stack, and it fits with a little bit of ease, but is neither baggy nor fitted, so I am very happy with this. I knit this sweater as part of a knit along or make along run by the Yarniacs podcast. The Yarniacs is an audio podcast that has been going for about 10 years or more than 10 years. 2 women who are like knitting besties. They live out in California, and for several years now they have run this knit along in the summer season called the Colors of Fall Knit Along. Even though it's called a knit along, it is inclusive of other fiber arts like crocheting, weaving, spinning. Those are the ones that come to mind. And the idea is that between the June solstice and the September equinox, you make something that includes at least one color from the Pantone fashion palettes, of which there are 4. There is New York and London for both fall, winter, and spring, summer. So there's a lot of colors to choose from. So your finished object must have at least one of those colors somewhere in it. And you post in the finished object thread on Ravelry or on Instagram with the hashtag you post a styled photo. So it could be you wearing an outfit with your finished object in it. It could be like a flat lay if you don't want yourself in a picture. It can be if you've made an accessory or like something with a pet, you can style that however you want. It's a very loosey-goosey, open kind of make along, which is just my kind of thing. So this is included in that. I don't remember all the color names, but I know that most of the colors in this sweater are definitely in that palette. I think maybe the dark teal is a little harder to find, but the rest are definitely in those palettes. So that's my finished sweater. And it's a relief to have this done because the last 2 sweaters I tried to make ended up failing because of various gauge issues. So this restored a little bit of my confidence as a knitter. It's also very warm, so I'm gonna take it off real quick and get to my next finished object. All right, my next finished object is yet another pair of socks. If you are a regular viewer, first of all, thank you for keep coming back. I have not been posting as frequently lately. Life is busy, work is busy, everything's fine. It's just harder to find time to record and harder to get the mental energy to like pull my thoughts together. So thanks for sticking with me. Anyway, here are my finished socks. So I've been working my way through a bunch of Felici sock yarn from Knitpicks. This is the fingering weight. I go through phases where all I want to do is knit like plain stockinette socks that do not require me to follow a pattern or think too hard about it. And I'm definitely solidly in one of those phases now and have been for a few months. It's great knitting to bring to meetings or even if I'm going out to dinner. I mentioned that I had a work trip this week. That's the reason these socks are done, is because I had a lot of knitting time while I was sitting through panel sessions and workshops and stuff. And even the night I got there, I went out to dinner with some people, and as we were sitting there waiting, I just knit on my socks. So this is the color, oh, I don't know that I know the color. It might be Zen. It's a bunch of blues, combination of a couple of different shades of denim blue and navy, a pale blue, a teal. I just really like these. They're made to fit my foot, but I don't know that I will keep them. I have a friend in mind to give them to. I think she'll like them. I knit all of my Felici socks pretty much the same way. I start out with a 2x2 rib at the cuff, moving into stockinette for the rest of it. I cast on 64 stitches with a size 1 needle. My preferred method of heel for self-striping of late is to do a garter stitch short row heel. I like the texture. I like the way the wrapped stitches or double stitches look when you resolve them. I just think it's a good look. So that's my second finished object. My third finished object, I showed you the work in progress last time. I had started this, I think I told you the story. I had started this at a alternative comic expo in Chicago, where I got to meet the author of a book that was just coming out, and I got just a little glimpse into the world of alternative comics. This is not, if you know anything about alternative comics, then you might think I'm an unusual person to show up at one of those things, and that may be true. I thought it was great. I learned a lot there. But we were, there was a lot of hanging out and listening to speakers and things as part of that. So I needed an easy project, and I was a little fatigued from socks at that point. This was a whole month ago. So I brought some yarn to make a hat. And I just love it, I have to tell you. This is yarn that I bought at a farmer's market several years ago. I think it was before COVID, because I know I got it in person. It might even be hand spun. I'm not 100% sure about that. I know that I just had the one skein. There was not even a label on it. I do not remember the breed or anything. But it's gray yarn. It's a little bit textured, a little bit of color variation, even though it's natural color wool. So I just cast on, I think, 104 stitches and did 1 by 1 rib for a long while because I wanted to use up as much of the skein as I could. And then I did a 4-point decrease at the top. So yeah, this is actually the inside of the hat, which is pretty cool. I made this really quite large. The width is fine, but on me, I have to turn the brim way up in order to see, in order for my eyes to show. Here's a couple of cool things about this hat. First of all, I did not realize there was any kind of a gradient thing happening until I tried it on and folded up the brim, and you can see that it is lighter right at the bottom than it is at the top. It gets a little bit darker at the top, and I think that contrast is really cool. This hat is for my husband because it's a little bit big for me. He was admiring it, and I think he would like it, so he gets to keep it. The other thing is that this is the outside of the hat, or this is what I thought would be the outside of the hat, rather. So when I did the 4-point decreases, I, like every other round, I would either do a right leaning or a left leaning decrease, and then I had this one purl stitch in the middle. But then as I was weaving in the ends, I had the hat turned inside out, and I noticed that the knit stitches look a lot more even on the inside for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. And I also noticed that the line created by those increase or decreases, you know, with on the inside, it's the knit stitch is the one on either side of those. And I like that look. So really it's a reversible hat, but it looks a little bit different from one side to the other, depending on how that decrease line goes. I don't think my husband's gonna care, but I think it's a nice little feature. So I very much enjoyed making this. It is not scratchy in my opinion. It's very like woolly and soft. I think it will hold up fairly well because it did not pill while I was working on it, and it feels like rather rustic, you know, but not scratchy. So there we are. That is it for finished objects. I have 2 works in progress to show you, and I will start with, I think I will start with another sock. So I mentioned that I was at it was like a 3-day meeting way up north. I had to drive a whole day to get there. So it's been a long week. It's today, right now, it is Friday, and I am taking the afternoon off because I just need to recover. Recover like mentally from everything. It was like a lot. It was a bunch of people who work on climate change stuff, so it was kind of intense, and the travel was a lot, and I was around people a lot, and yeah, just a little fried. So anyway, I finished the one pair of socks and immediately started another. These are for a friend who saw me knitting at a different conference I was at last week. This month is a little bananas, you all, for work. And dropped a hint that she would like some socks made by me, and I would love to make some for her. So I picked out some yarn I think she will like. I'll show you the yarn first. It's this lovely sort of moody gray, medium gray, with streaks of blue throughout. She told me she likes muted colors, so I'm going with that. This is Valley Yarn's Huntington Splash. Here's the label. So Huntington is the sock yarn from Valley Yarns, which is like the house yarn brand from Webb's. I haven't ordered from Webb's in a long time. The original owners retired and sold it to some large corporation, and I'm just not interested in shopping there anymore. plus I don't need yarn. Anyway, so I've had this like for a couple of years, I think. It's the color Pacific Ocean, which I think accounts for the blues. It's like different sort of light blue and teal and medium blue in there. And here's what I've got so far. I'm not doing any kind of special pattern. I did decide to do, her feet are bigger than mine, so I cast on a few more stitches than I ordinarily would using size 1 needles. And I am doing a 1x1 garter rib down the leg instead of stockinette. I just, my son has really enjoyed the socks that I make with this stitch pattern. I think it makes it a little snugger, you know, than regular stockinette. And I thought it would look nice in this yarn that's not heavily variegated, but there's enough, you know, with the streaks and everything, there's enough going on that I don't want to do an elaborate pattern. So this is my first work in progress, and this will come along with me to Zoom meetings, other meetings, you know, that kind of thing. It's just good portable knitting. The one last work in progress I have to show you is, this is attempt 2.0 with this yarn. I'll show you a unopened skein. This is Zooey by Juniper Moon Farms. It's a cotton linen blend. 60% cotton, 40% linen. It's basically a DK weight. The gauge range, well, I don't know how to figure out. It says it's number 2 fine, which tells me it's like, I don't know, fingering sport weight. But then it says suggested knitting range is 20 to 24 stitches over stockinette, which to me is a pretty big range. It's like worsted through sport. Anyway, this is the yarn I used to start a Neela sweater by Natasha Hornby. And I love that design. I still want to make it, but my row gauge was so different between the front and the back that it was just not going to work. And I think it was because I had to make the gauge so dense with this particular yarn choice that it just wasn't giving anything at all. So I ripped that out, and I have started over with, show you a picture. It's called the Cocoa Tea by Sari Nordland. And as you can see, it is much, much, much simpler than the Neela Tea. There's no special textured stitches. It's top down, kind of a drop shoulder, not my usual thing, but I think this will be all right. This is what I have so far. So you start with the ribbing at the collar. I think I'm mid-row here, so that's not super helpful. You start with the ribbing at the collar. You do some short rows. At the same time, you're doing some very dramatic increases along the shoulder line. And I don't think I'm giving too much away because I'm not telling you numbers. And I think there are a lot of designers who have this method now of doing top-down sweaters. So you have this nice slope on the shoulders, and at one point when you're done with that, you separate for the front and back. So that's where I'm at now. I did the back down to the armhole join, and now I'm working on the front. You can see that I'm rowing out a little bit with this. So in case you're unfamiliar with the term, rowing out is when you go from knitting in the round to knitting back and forth. And knitting back and forth, you have a slightly different tension as you're purling back. Usually it's a little bit looser, and so that shows up in your stitches. So it looks a little different. You can kind of tell where I started with the back and forth compared to where I was in the round. Sometimes this shows up in a difference in gauge as well. I've just decided not to worry about it. This yarn is kind of textured anyway. I'm hoping that the difference in gauge is not, especially for something oversized, is not great enough that it will make a big difference in the fit. And at this point, I'm just interested in moving forward and seeing how it turns out. So, so this is what I've got so far. And I haven't read ahead in the pattern, but I'm sure that once you join for the underarm, it's just like straight stockinette down to the hem. So I just need to decide how long I want to make it. And then there's just a little bit of a sleeve edging to do. So I wish I had started this sooner, because if it was done in the next few days, I could probably wear it yet before it cools off for the fall, but that may not happen. That's okay though. I'm glad to be using this yarn because I've had it for a while, and you know, I already had one failed attempt with it, so I want to see it work out. That is all the knitting that I have to show you. I don't have other crafts that are ready to show you either, but I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about the Wisconsin Sheep and Wool Festival. That was 2 weekends ago. It was September 6th, 7, and 8. It's always held, I think, the first weekend after Labor Day, and it's at the Jefferson County Fairgrounds. So that is not too far from Madison. It's an easy drive, just under an hour for me. And I actually went for 2 days this year, which was pretty fun. I was able to take a few hours off that Friday. So I went by myself, which for me is like a real special treat because I don't have to wait on anybody. I don't have to worry about if I'm with someone who is tired of it or hungry or bored or whatever. So that was cool. So I spent quite a while walking through the vendor barns and having a look around. I spent a long time looking at the sheep. And I spent quite a while watching the stock dog trials, which was really fun, especially because I ran into somebody I know from work actually, and I had forgotten that she also has sheep and trains dogs for sheep herding. So she was competing in the dog trials, and we had a lovely time catching up, which was really cool. But I also did some shopping, which I'll show you what I got in a bit. But then I went back the next day. My daughter is 16. She's not really a knitter and not, you know, particularly into sheep and fiber and yarn, but she wanted to go with me. So we went back and we watched more dog trials and looked at some of the sheep showing, like, you know, the kids that bring their sheep in to be judged. And yeah, it was a really, really nice day. So that was a nice little gift to myself. I also bought some yarn. No, I have no business doing that, but I'm telling you, the Wisconsin Sheep and Wool Festival is only once a year, and if there is something that I see there that I cannot get anywhere else, that I can't resist, I go ahead and get it. So I will show you what I got. One of the first things that I always do is see what's at the Utopia booth. I have professed my love for Utopia Fiber Mill and their yarn many times before. There's a mill, it's out of Berroco, Wisconsin, which is in the Driftless region in the western, southwest part of the state. They have a mill, but they also dye commercial yarn, like sock yarn and mohair silk and stuff. And this year they had a special colorway they called Kamalanomenon. I had to get it. I got it on their sock yarn. It's Wisco sock base. Half of the profits from the sales of this colorway, which they carried in most, if not all, of their yarn bases, were donated to the Harris Walls campaign. And I picked stock yarn because if I don't know what else to do with it, I can always make socks. Although after I came home with this, I thought, you know, if I'd gotten the Surrey silk, I could have made another one of those eyelet shawls like I did over the summer. But that's okay. I would be happy to have a bright purple pair of Kamala socks. Kamalanomenon. So that was fun. The other two yarns I picked up are like farm yarns, undyed, natural, you know, breed specific. And I did get sweater quantities of them. We'll see what sweater I end up making. I hope these don't sit too long in the stash before I get around to it, but no promises. This is a fingering weight Corriedale. Natural color. I don't know how well it's coming through on the camera, but it's like a light, very light beige, kind of a beigey gray. Maybe not my best color, but I don't care because it feels so nice. This is from Observatory Hill Farm. They don't even have a label on it. I just remember that it's Corriedale. There's quite a lot in here. I think it's over 400, it might be 450 yards for one skein. And it's just lovely. I have another sweater that I made out of a DK Corriedale weight from there, and I like it. You know, I love the yarn. Love knitting with it. So this is one I got. And I can't remember where they have their wool milled, but whoever does a good job. The other yarn I picked up is from Round Barn Fiber Mill. They're based out of Illinois. They have a lot of breed specific stuff. How long ago was it? 3 years ago, maybe? I bought a skein of very light cream colored Polworth from there that I used to make a shawl. I'll put pictures in here. It's like, I think it's called Some Me Time by Joji Locatelli. And I had to incorporate a couple of other colors from a different yarn to make the yardage work, but it's one of my favorite shawls. And I'm not really a shawl person, so that's saying something. They're very popular. By the time I got there, this was the yarn I bought on Saturday, so the second day, and by the time I got there, they had a lot of empty space on their shelves. But I did come home with this Jacob yarn. It's gray silver marled. It's 3 ply DK weight. So there's a lot happening color-wise, even though it's natural, not dyed. I think this wants to be a cardigan. Maybe something kind of plain, because there's, like, color-wise, there's so much going on in the yarn already. But we will see. I need to swatch it and see how my gauge feels and everything. And also Jacob yarn is lovely, but it's not like the softest. Like, I don't necessarily want this up on my neck. Although I don't feel like it's scratchy now. But something about this just says it might work best as a cardigan. We'll see. Maybe it could be kind of a, you know, outer layer pullover kind of sweatshirt deal. We'll see. Anyway, I have found that while I might have more natural colored, you know, undyed sort of gray, beige, blah yarns in my stash maybe than I need, I'm drawn to them. I really like the look of that natural wool color. I've also found that if you're buying, like if you're at a festival and you're looking at like small producers and small businesses, if you're gonna get like a breed specific or a small batch yarn, and then on top of that they've had to dye it a color, the price can go up quite a lot. And it's absolutely justified. I completely understand that there is a lot of labor and creativity and time that goes into creating those yarns, but when you have to work within a certain budget, and I did spend more than I meant to at the festival, getting hand-dyed yarns just really adds up fast. So when you are getting the natural colored, where they don't have to do that extra step of dyeing either the fleece before they spin it or the yarn after it's spun, then, you know, that's just the whole extra step that you don't have to, that you're not paying for. So I'm very happy with my purchases, and I'm very much looking forward to making things out of these yarns. And I believe that is all I have to share with you today. So I will see you again. I am not sure when, next month sometime, whenever it is I have the chance to record. I will see you then. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.